From the 260 to the 469, welcome to another weekly recap of the DNFL. As Forrest would say, how's it going? But today's guest, we actually have a guest. Chris, welcome to the DNFL weekly recap. How are things in Jacksonville right now?
Hey, unlike our football team down here in Jacksonville, things for me and my family are going really well.
Awesome. I give weather updates all the time, and in my neck of the woods, the weather right now it's pretty cold now. How's the weather in Jacksonville?
It's 75 and sunny today, so nothing, not experiencing snow, not experiencing that. It's pretty good.
Awesome. Well, I have a date with Blake in a little bit, so let's go ahead and get started. I like to keep these for 10 to 15 minutes, but
Yeah,
we'll see if we go longer. I have a few questions for you, and then we're at the point in the season where we just have a few games left, and I just want your perspective on which teams do you like to potentially win a title, and which teams do you think are going to falter? I can run through the rosters, and you can give me your one team for each of those questions. So let me go ahead and start with the first question. I am looking at the auction results from
yeah.
this last auction, and I told this person after the auction, Blake, you spent how much on Brees Hall? You spent $68 on Brees Hall. Chris, if you were in a league with Blake this year, this auction league, and he spent that much money on Brees Hall, what would you tell him?
I would say that his fantasy auction drafting is equivalent to his budget. The reality is before he got married to Miranda, this guy was spending $30 on hummus at restaurants. So I'm not surprised by his wild spending. He got married and married up, and frankly, she's probably keeping him from bankruptcy. And similar to his fantasy football team that she's not involved with, his spending is ludicrous. So I'm not surprised by that, spending all that money on a guy who struggles with turf toe. So I expect nothing less.
All right. Yeah. I was a little surprised he spent that much money on him, but thanks for the background on that. I did not know that Blake liked hummus that much,
Yeah,
but it's
no
good to
one
know.
does.
I'll have
Yeah,
to get him some hummus for Christmas, maybe.
yeah, that would be good.
I'm sure he'll love it. Do you know what he likes with hummus? Like carrots, crackers?
Big on celery. He likes celery, anything basic and that's easily breakable, similar to Brees Hall. So
Good one. I'm wondering, so you've been in auction drafts before. You've actually won this auction league. Um, when you hear the term auction draft courtesy, like say an auctioneer, they're doing their job, they're doing their due diligence. But there is this one guy who is notorious for getting in his bid at the last minute. And near the end of the auction, this guy has done this consistently. And at the end of the auction, he gets a bid in at the last minute. The auctioneer doesn't see it, and also the crowd doesn't necessarily agree with the person that had their bid in. Like they're like, I don't know. I don't know if he got it or not. What do you think? Like what should auction draft courtesy be? Should it go to the auctioneer? Should he have the final say? Or should it
I,
go to the auctioner?
the ultimately the consensus has to go to the group, with the auctioneer being the final word.
Okay.
I'm okay with the last second strategy, but the reality is, if you're going to do that bid, you have to make it announced. If you're doing it in person, it has to be loud and undeniable that you got that bid in. If you're leaving it in the ref's hands to make the decision, that's not a game plan for success. So if the consensus is it wasn't in, hey, you better get that in a little sooner next time.
Okay. Or if the crowd was divided and the auctioneer has the final say and they're
His
like,
final say.
I didn't see it. I want to move on. We're at the end of the
Yeah,
draft.
absolutely.
Awesome. That's good to know. Maybe I'll get invited back next year to do the auction again. um, so we have a lot of big comeback stories in sports. Michael Jordan coming back to basketball from baseball, LeBron James coming back to Cleveland, and Homie Mord coming back to fantasy football this year. What does it mean to have Homie in a fantasy league?
It's a two-part answer, and why I say it that way is it's similar to a dog returning to his own vomit. Sometimes his plays and his strategies were a little weak, but at the same time, it's always great to have a another body in the room. Competitor sometimes, but ultimately, Homie keeps things lively. He is, he's an intelligent, very good at the waiver. Very good at the waiver. He knows his stuff. It's always good to have Homie in the conversation. We'll just see where it goes from here. Will he spiral and follow the path of up at 3 a.m. to get the waiver wire? We'll see. He's got the itch back. He's got the addiction back. We'll see if he can stay above water this time or if he fully submerges.
Okay. Good to know. I'm glad that Homie is back in fantasy football. I am rooting for him this year. So, with being a Jacksonville native now, you have a pulse on the city. You have a pulse on the football team. I've heard you actually ran into Trevor Lawrence at Publix buying sushi. Um, but yeah, we have a Jacksonville Jaguars fan in our league. And this question actually had come up this week about him potentially going back to the Bears. Chris, you're on the scene. You see everything. Should Forrest pick a new NFL team?
So I think the first I think Forrest is the type of person that can switch teams. His loyalty is in question a lot. He makes harsh decisions, so I think he could bounce back and forth. It would kind of match his mo. The reality is he's going from bad to bad, so I don't know if he gets any better. The reality is Jacksonville Pulse is that we're getting ready to call it. We're on cardiac arrest down here from that perspective, and at least if he went back to the Bears, he would have a slight pulse. He would have a zesty pulse. We'll put it that way. A little fruity sometimes. But hey, sometimes with Forrest is fresh to death, fresh to death. So, I could see him going back and making that, but loyalty's always been a little bit of a problem for him.
Okay, nice. Do you think there's a chance that Forrest may be in London next year?
Um, no, not at
Okay.
all. I think Forrest traveling abroad is dangerous for himself. I don't think that he would get through customs. I think that he would be the most likely to get arrested being a citizen, trying to go to another country. So I just think he better stay home. He should just stay there and not go anywhere. That's probably the safest thing for him.
Okay, so he won't be following his team to London if he decides to stay with them. Get
No,
it.
no, he should not.
I get it. Okay. All right. Well, what the people were all waiting for, we are going to go through the rosters right now. I am sharing my screen and making this full screen. Can you see this well? All right,
I sure
Chris?
can. I sure can.
Awesome. So you can kind of make out what the records are right now. Granted, we have 8 playoff teams in a 10-team league. I don't know why that is.
This is
I
the
guess it
upward
keep
of fantasy football. Just everybody gets an award. Is that what that is?
yeah, pretty much
Okay.
kind of
All
like a
right.
fantasy football handout in a way. But yeah, I am gonna scroll through. I'll just scroll slowly so you can see the teams and the players. Um, so I am wondering, you have a good idea of the teams that you are seeing. There is Dave's team on the bottom, but I think he's still in it. I think he still has a shot. But you can see the teams at um, 8-4 and 7-5. Um, after looking through all these teams, what team do you think is going to lay an egg this upcoming postseason? And which team are you picking to win the DNFL?
Lay an egg, pun intended, but actually no. The only spicy thing about this team is the fact that they're not a dumpster fire, which they will be, and it's a cayenne pepper hot dog. I frankly I don't know how they're limping along. That manager is lucky, not skilled. Actually, you know what? The person that drafted that to me is a person who thinks he knows football, but at the end of the day is just guessing. That's what that team says to me. And then actually, the team that has the most upside, if you scroll down a little bit,
Hmm.
the team that I look at and I say, hey, I like where we're going here is actually going to be IU. Other than the college, which was dog crap and talk too much. I like what
Yeah.
they've got going on. I think they've got a lot of options there, a lot of weapons that could come into play down the end of the season here. But in terms of who's going to fold, Pepper is going to fold without a question. I think you've got two teams between IU, and then I also think with a commanding lead as well would be yeah, give me the name again.
Lay an egg.
Actually, no, not laying an egg. Actually, we go 1 week, 1 seed.
Okay. You like 1 week, 1 seed. Okay.
Yeah,
Okay. Good to know. Well, Chris, that is all I have for today. Thanks for sharing your spicy takes today. I hit my mic. I am normally not that spicy, but it's nice to have a new fresh face and opinion for the DNFL. I appreciate you hopping on tonight and sharing your thoughts.
absolutely. Just like a lot of these guys, their glory days are in the past, like many of their football teams in fantasy. So I'm glad I can just come on and speak truth. Truth and love goes hand in hand. So that's what I'm
That's
here
true.
for.
We needed an impartial third party on this episode, and I'm glad you had the time to jump on.
Absolutely.
Awesome. I'll talk to you soon, Chris.
Hey, sounds good. Appreciate your
Yep.
time.
Yep.